Video game and anime adaptations have come a long way since I was a child. We have had so many bangers as of late. I mean, between Fallout and Warcraft and Mario and the Sonic films. Then on the anime side, you have, well, more of a manga, but Alita Battle Angel was actually really good. You had, of course, the live-action One Piece. Yu Yu Hakusho, I mean, kinda worked in some ways. Point is, things are way better than the original days of Resident Evil or Mortal Kombat 2 or, God forbid, Dragon Ball Evolution. But do we really need a live-action adaptation of Pokemon? Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and yes, rumor Netflix's live-action Pokemon still in development, ready to serve as series protagonists. Now, I'm going to say out the gate, I loved Detective Pikachu. I'm not even going to front. I thought Detective Pikachu was awesome, but that was more of its own interesting one-off sort of thing. It's an adaptation of the IP, but not any particular story. Whereas, I would think that if we're going to have a live-action Pokemon from Netflix with Red as the main character, you would think it would actually cover the first Pokemon Gen 1 games, you know, where Red made his debut as a character. And this was announced years ago, by the way. I mean, I remember talking about this with my buddies when it was announced, before I even had a channel, about the live-action Pokemon. Then this is not to be confused with the other live-action Pokemon that is in the works, although that's a Japanese property, and it's not actually a Pokemon adaptation. It is a live-action show being put out by the Pokemon company that takes place here in the real world about an older woman who is a career woman who finds her old Pokemon game and starts using like Pokemon metaphors and life lessons to navigate her career path and social life, which sounds adorable and really interesting. I'm very excited for that. That is still in development. Point is, if you didn't know about that, hey, there's something to look forward to, because it's going to be a Japanese property. It's going to be awesome. This is not that. This is a Netflix adaptation. And again, coming off the high of One Piece, I'm not intrinsically opposed to this, but also, is one good series like One Piece, one good season 1 enough to justify and be excited for this? So we're going to get into this article. Before we do, hit that subscribe button. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, and despite absolutely no word on the project being raised outside of the initial announcement, a new whisper suggests that Netflix's live-action Pokemon adaptation is still in development, and with a rather surprising choice of protagonists. That's right, if you a Pokemon fan, it's our boy, it's Red. No Ash Ketchum's up in here, no lame-ass Justice Smith character, because as much as I love Detective Pikachu, my god, were the characters, you know, Justice Smith and what's her name, just awful and annoying. No, we talking about OG Red, baby. Let's go. Previously, the project's existence was first confirmed in the public of July 2021, courtesy of an exclusive report from Variety's Joe Otterson, who learned of the live-action Pokemon series greenlighting by way of his purported insider sources. However, at the time of the report, Otterson had not been made privy to any actual details, either story, casting, or otherwise, regarding the project's production. In the next 3 years, this would be the last anyone would hear of Netflix's desire to attempt to catch them all. And I'm also wanting to bring into question the budget here. While we're on the subject, because there's no details about it in the article, but it's just something that I personally am curious about. One of the reasons that Detective Pikachu, in my opinion, worked is because visually it was a Pokemon product. Like, I loved the live action representations of every Pokemon put to screen. I mean, Snorlax looked great, Ludicolo was hilarious, Pikachu himself, of course, was adorable, Charizard looked ferocious and badass, the Apoms and Ambipoms were sick. I mean, I can go on. Mewtwo was a powerhouse. He looked the coolest he had probably ever looked. I mean, look, I saw the original Pokemon, the first movie, in theaters when I was but a wee child, and I remember Mewtwo being a badass, but goddamn, seeing him in like full 3 dimensions and whatnot was sick, bro. So when you're talking about Netflix, are they going to give Pokemon the love and the care to do that level of animation on these little monsters, on these furry little critters that frankly are iconic in their visuals, especially in Gen 1, which is without a doubt the most well-known generation? If they're going to put in the time and the money and make it look like something to the equivalent of what we got with Detective Pikachu, I'm not actually opposed to this. I think that this very well could work. Now, unlike, and by the way, they did do this for One Piece. Because One Piece, the budget showed through on the screen. They very clearly cared about the lore, about the craft, about how to make this look like a live-action adaptation of the anime. The difference being, One Piece is incredibly story-driven. I mean, it is all story all the time. Pokemon Red, not so much. Pokemon Red is very much a video game, and if you're using Red as the main character, again, I just assume that's the way the story is going to go, because it's not Ash they're using, it's Red. So how do you facilitate a story when the game is just catch monsters, beat up, gym leaders, high-ranking Pokemon traders, defeat the Pokemon Mafia, and become the champion? Like, it seems like a strange sort of script, I'll put it that way. And honestly, even the Pokemon Origins anime didn't really do it very good. Like, I love the Pokemon Origins anime, but they tried to do that whole thing in like 3 episodes, and it just doesn't work. That wasn't until noted scooper Daniel RPK Rickman made the mention of the project in an August 12th post made to his personal Patreon account. Therein, as recapped by Dextro's Screen Time branch, Rickman alleged that per his own sources, the series was still alive, well, and actively being worked on. Not only that, but a bit of new information. The scooper, who also claimed the series' protagonist would be neither Ash Ketchum nor an original character, but rather the OG trainer himself, Red. Yo, this got you Gen 1ers like myself pretty excited. I'm actually not a Gen 1er. My favorite generation is Gen 3, but given my age and my interactions with younger Pokemon fans, all you young millennials, I'm called a Gen 1er, so fuck it. I'll wear it with pride. But Gen 3 supremacy, just throwing that out there. For those unfamiliar with the trainer by name, you may better recognize him as the baseball cap protagonist for the original Generation 1. Red, blue for US players, green for Japanese players, and yellow Pokemon games. But for just one-off character, far from just a one-off character after his debut outing, Red, no doubt helped by his status as the franchise's first ever playable character, would go on to be enshrined in both the minds of Pokemon fans and official series canon as one of the most iconic heroes, with some of the further appearances including roles as the secret final boss of Gen 2's Gold, Silver, and Crystal, and the boss of the Gen 7 Battle Tower. Dude, I remember when Red showed up in Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, when Red showed up in Gen 7, I was blown away. By this point, I was well into my 20s. I was absolutely an adult, and I was like, Red is back! They brought Red! Red hadn't been in a legitimate mainline Pokemon game since Gen 2. It was childhood all over again. Like, yeah, obviously, it makes sense to use Red as the main character. He's visually identifiable, probably from multiple generations. Oh, also, yes, he was a main character, and he was a playable character in Smash Bros. Since Brawl. There's that, too. The fact of the matter is, there's potential here. That's where I'm going with this. There is potential here. But as good as video game and anime adaptations have gotten lately, and I'm not quite sure which to classify this as, because Pokemon is like the definition of a multimedia franchise. It is card games, anime, video games, manga. I mean, it's everything. Live action movies now, animated movies, both of which have had theatrical debuts. Like, I don't really know what to qualify this as, regardless of whether it's an anime adaptation or a video game adaptation or a weird fusion dance hybrid of the two. We still have had more bad than good in both of those scenarios. I praise a lot of modern day video game adaptations. They've actually been really good in a lot of ways. I mean, not looking at you, Borderlands, you're fucking abysmal, but you know what? I'm talking about, again, the Fallouts, the Mario Bros, the Warcrafts, the Sonic 1 and 2, and upcoming Sonic 3. Even some people say The Last of Us. I highly disagree, but you know what? To each their own. I will say that The Last of Us is still probably, objectively better than something like, again, Mortal Kombat 2 or the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films. The fact of the matter is, we've had so much bad over the last X amount of years that it makes me cautiously optimistic for this one. The optimism is there because we do see the good that has been coming. And again, Netflix, man, they did so much right with One Piece. And the question then becomes, after seeing the Super Mario Bros. Movie and how great it was, how involved is Nintendo? Because Nintendo holds their IP tight. I mean, they truly care. There's a reason that Pokemon, the live action one, I've said the name, Detective Pikachu, was at least, even if you didn't like it because you thought the story was weak or whatever, okay, fair enough, but there's a reason that at least as a Pokemon property, as an adaptation, it works on that level. There's a reason that Mario worked on the level it worked, because Nintendo absolutely cares, and I don't think that they're going to let this get, too out of their hands. Now, granted, Nintendo's only 1/3 owner. You've also got the Pokemon Company and Creatures Inc. /Game Freak, but the fact of the matter is, there's very much a care for these Japanese properties that we only see out in Nintendo, really. Take on the franchise that's just much more grounded as it is fantastical. The manga sees Red not only lead the charge in its red, green, and blue arc, but also from there on out, much like his video game counterpart, serve as a side protagonist through the rest of the series. And yes, for those who noticed the similarities between the two, Red did in fact serve as the direct inspiration for Pokemon anime protagonist Satoshi/Ash Ketchum. To this end, it's interesting to note that Netflix is choosing to go with Red as their lead rather than his anime counterpart, particularly because his popular belief suggests that given the massive viewership the series has seen from across the world, they would hope to bank on the popularity of its main and widely recognizable main character to help get eyes on the new endeavor. No, I disagree. I disagree with this entirely. I think it makes perfect sense to go with Red over Ash because Ash has solidified himself as the protag of the anime. And if they want to differentiate themselves and show that we are committed to the canon of the games, then they would go with Red. Like that's why I'm hesitant to call this an anime adaptation, but also hesitant to call it a video game adaptation because Pokemon's both. But when you look at it like this, it looks like it's going to be a game adaptation. All in all, there's not a lot more to it. There's sort of detail, who Red is, the character of Red. But at the end of the day, I'm curious. Do we need this? Do we need a live action Pokemon? Because the most recent one we got, I liked it. It wasn't bad. I've actually been hoping for a sequel. But also, I'm not exactly clamoring for it either. It's one of those things, if someone comes up to you and they give you a slice of pizza and you're not hungry, all right, cool. The slice of pizza, that's pretty good. I appreciate getting a free slice of pizza. But maybe I'm not hungry, or maybe I'm not feeling well, but you don't want to be rude and turn down a gift, or maybe you're on a diet or whatever it is, or maybe the pizza's cold. Yeah, I wasn't asking for it, but I'll accept it if given it. But I'm not going to shy away from asking the question of who is this for, because if they're going with the character of Red as their main character, then I would assume this is for me. And people my age, people that grew up with the original Gen 1 of Pokemon. This is not for the young kids that are getting into Pokemon now when Ash isn't the main character, when Red isn't the character in the games. So this would have to be geared towards older millennials. And that's a very interesting choice that, by all means, maybe Netflix knows what they're doing, especially with the accompaniment of Nintendo, but, don't tell me that this isn't weird, but those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word, and please do subscribe. I'm a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, not always about Netflix adaptations and the video games and whatnot, but anime, movies, music, Magic the Gathering, you name it. Check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon, and become a member for $4.99 a month. You can join the Discord, choose the articles that I cover on a day-to-day basis, choose the videos I react to on my Friday night live streams, and of course, get involved with over 80 other vital idols. We are a bright, beautiful, glowing, vibrant community that I cannot wait to grow even further, because we do care about diversity, but only one kind of diversity of thought. So that sounds interesting to you, join the Discord, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, it is all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.